Well, good morning. I'm Shaka Mitchell, the Tennessee State Director for the American Federation for Children, coming to you the day before Veterans Day, and we've got a really special choice chat today. I am really excited to welcome Anthony Raiola, who's the National Development Officer, and Dayna Dunn, who's the Director of Scholarships, and they are with an organization called Folds of Honor, who does some really cool work that we want to learn about, and it's related to Veterans Day coming up tomorrow. We want to first and foremost say thank you to all the veterans out there. We know just what a sacrifice it is for really on behalf of our country, and so we're so thankful for your service. And also want to give a shout out to families of veterans, because that's a big service too. We know that there are a lot of servicemen and women here in Tennessee, and so we're really honored to get to learn more about an organization that's sort of supporting those families. So Dayna and Anthony, thank you so much for being with us this morning. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Well, I want to start with some easy questions and some framing. So, we on this show, I guess we now call it a show. On our show, we talk about kind of highlighting bright spots in education, particularly in Tennessee. But your organization is really a national organization. So I'd love to hear, maybe start with you, Anthony, a little more about your role with Folds of Honor, and give us kind of the elevator pitch. What is Folds of Honor? What does it do?
Yeah, so my role with Folds of Honor is the Regional Development Officer. I was working on chapter development across the entire United States, but with everything kind of going on around COVID and fundraising and events not happening in person, which is a lot of how we do our fundraising. I worked with our executive management team to say, we need to have some more boots on the ground here. And I live here in Nashville, Tennessee. So I wanted to dive in and see how I could help the local chapter here, as well as our Georgia chapter. So those are kind of the two chapters that I specifically work on around developing opportunities for fundraising and also awareness about our mission. As far as what Folds of Honor does, we provide educational scholarships to families and spouses of fallen or injured soldiers, and provide educational scholarships. We have two different types of scholarships, which Dayna, who is on with us right now, is our expert in, and will be able to kind of talk us through exactly what the ins and outs of those look like. But we have a higher ed scholarship, and then we have our children's fund scholarship, so K through 12. And our real mission is to honor their sacrifice and educate their legacy. That's the real core of what our mission is. And unfortunately, a lot of these families are left in hard positions. If something were to happen to one of their parents while serving and protecting our freedoms at home. And our founder, Lieutenant Colonel Dan Rooney, the way that Folds of Honor was founded, he was on a flight back home to Grand Haven, Michigan, where he's from, and he gets on an airplane, last flight of the red eye, and he notices that there's a gentleman in his dress army greens up in first class, and he served himself as a fighter pilot, and shook his hand and walked to his back seat. And as they landed, the pilot came on the intercom and said, if everyone could just please remain seated, we have an American hero on board. And so Dan's mind immediately goes to this gentleman up in first class, but it was actually his brother escorting his brother home who had fallen, Brock Buckland. And as the flag draped coffin kind of inched down towards the runway, Dan looked out the window and saw this little boy and the family crying, and he's wiping away his tears. And at that moment, he realized that this little boy would never be able to play catch with his dad, never be tucked in again with his dad. And Dan turned back to the plane and noticed that almost half the plane had gotten off with nowhere else to go except that blanket of freedom that we all get to sleep under every single night, due to the 1% that laces up every day and goes and protects us. So in that moment, Dan was disheartened and sad at the same time, and said, I wanted to do something for this family. And that's really how Folds of Honor was born. And and his son were the first ones to receive the Folds of Honor scholarship. And it's just, we've got a lot of great partners, national partners from Anheuser-Busch to Rite Aid, some really big name partners that are really all in on what we do. Quick Trip, another one. And then at the local level, what chapters do is, we put on events, fundraisers, and try and raise awareness. So that's kind of what we do. We've got amazing patriots all across the nation helping raise awareness and raising funds.
Yeah, thank you, Anthony. That's really, really helpful, and also just a really moving story and visual of why your organization exists. And I love that. I don't know if that's the sort of mission statement, but honoring the sacrifice and educating their legacy. Boy, that's really, really powerful. So thank you. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
So Dayna, then talk to us a little bit about your role and your what I think is maybe a little closer to the scholarship and to the programmatic side. So talk to us about what your role in the organization.
I am the director of scholarships. I have worked for Folds of Honor for a little over 6 years. I came to the organization actually as a public school teacher. So, this is my opportunity to give back, still with education in mind, because that was my college background and my family background, but also, I have family who has served. So it was a very unique marrying of all of those things. And what my side of the operation does is we have the privilege of then helping, individuals, parents, children apply for our scholarship programs, and then certainly ensuring that we assist in getting those award monies out for them. Anthony mentioned the beginnings, and we started out with 10 scholarship recipients. And as of the 2020-2021 academic year, the organization now can proudly say that we've given out over 27,500, nearly 28,000 scholarships nationwide. We do actually even have some recipients in Guam, Puerto Rico, Ecuador, even internationally, they attend some schools. So
that's really amazing. 27,500, almost 28,000 scholarships is really tremendous. Something that a lot of folks probably don't know is our organization too, American Federation for Children, originally started, was born as a scholarship granting organization, and was born as a scholarship granting organization, had been given scholarships to students. And this is some, 25 years ago in primarily the Arkansas area, giving higher ed scholarships because there's just such a need for students. I mean, I think we all realize, and you did, Dayna, as a teacher, education is the most democratic way to sort of climb the ladder in America. But a lot of families aren't able to do it, but financially, and certainly if they need additional support. So how do y'all get the word out to families? Is it through DAV offices? Is it through on bases? How do you spread the word? We do a little bit of that, and it's always a bit of a challenge. What does it look like in your context?
Yeah, I'll take a stab, and then maybe Dayna, you can talk on the national lens on what we do. But chapters, as I mentioned, I've worked with chapter development. We've got over, I think, 30 chapters now across the country in different cities, some in multiple states, like Texas, we have 3. And really what the chapters are supposed to do is not only raise funds, but also raise awareness. And they do that by having events. They've got board members. They've got young professional board members, kind of in that just early age of their careers, and getting out and talking to their networks. And what they do is then they go out and they go to universities, they go to elementary schools, they go to different meetings and talk about just kind of like what we're doing right now. And just all different kinds of ways, as well as going to military bases and just, letting people know about our scholarships. That's often half the battle, is letting all these families know, that we have this scholarship. And I always find it somewhat funny that a lot of these families are, this is almost too good to be true. Like the once Dayna kind of gets into the logistics of how it all works in the selection process and what's needed to qualify, a lot of times it's pretty rewarding to hear some of these families saying, I would qualify, I should apply for that. So we do it in a lot of different grassroots ways. Our national office obviously does a great job at promoting it with radio and things like that. Just really trying to get in front of as many people as we can. We've got guest speakers and ambassador speakers that do things for us. We've got professional golfers and just a ton of different avenues and tentacles that we try and get our messaging out through. And everyone has the same mission in mind, and it's pretty powerful. And Dayna can speak to our growth, but we continue to grow, and the need is still going to continue to be there.
Yeah, maybe let's move to that. Dayna, talk to us a little bit about, we have a lot of parents who tune into our show, and I know you're in Oklahoma, but here in Tennessee, we've got a number of places where families may be stationed. Fort Campbell is kind of our primary target, sort of in the Clarksville area, just on the Tennessee-Kentucky border. How do families, show eligibility? How might they learn more about the program?
Absolutely. Yes, we have a number of recipients in the Clarksville area for both our Children's Fund, our K-12 program, as well as our higher ed for the college-age students. The first thing I strongly encourage anyone to do is to visit our website, foldsofhonor.org. And when you get there, you will see a tab for scholarships. And when you go to that tab, we've actually just launched a new website, and we are still working to get some things updated and current. But for either program, Children's Fund or higher education, there are some helpful documents that can be downloaded that explain, the criteria to apply. And then there's a sample application. Our applications are done all online. And again, the website will reference where to go. And then
and we'll make sure that website is posted in the comments on on Facebook too.
Perfect. We do only take applications between February 1st and March 31st of each calendar year. We will get so many in that 8-week period that exhausts my budget in terms of scholarship dollars. But the website gives, I think, tremendous resources. And then, of course, it also provides, there is an email for my scholarship team, as well as a phone number for our headquarters, so we can answer questions via email or telephone calls, either one. Okay. Word of mouth, I think, tends to be one of the best ways. As military families are very close knit, and as Anthony mentioned, whether it's through any of these avenues that we work to promote what it is that we do, then these families also communicate with each other. And that is as big an asset as any in kind of spreading the word.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that word of mouth. That's how I learned about the program, is from a school leader in the up in Clarksville. She herself, Ms. Stallworth, is I think at Power and Grace Academy. She's part of a military family. And she told me about the program, and we connected and said, oh, that's really great. We should definitely, connect with them. So now you mentioned, I think Anthony mentioned, that there's actually 2 different scholarship funds, right? So the higher education fund, and then also the children's fund, I think. Talk a little bit about the differences there.
Okay. So the Children's Fund is for kindergarten through 12th grade, private school or tutoring. And the eligibility requirements are a little different for that than they are for the college students. The Children's Fund is there to assist families whose service member has been severely wounded or lost. But it can help with the private school tuition or tutoring from any kind of an established business that offers tutoring for students. And then for our higher education program, that is for both spouses and dependents of service members who have either fallen or been disabled. And, we know with college, there's not a free option. So that's why the requirements or the eligibility requirements are a little different than our Children's Fund. With spouses, there's no age limitations. There is up until the age of 25, a dependent can apply for assistance. And then some of the more, there are a few more specifics, but the maximum award amount for any of our scholarships is $5,000 per academic year.
Yeah, well, $5,000 per year, adds up, frankly. And particularly if, as you mentioned, students for that Children's Fund are eligible in kindergarten. You mentioned,
right?
That can really add up, and so that's got to mean that your team is doing a lot of work out there, a lot of fundraising work to maintain the scholarships in an ongoing way, I might imagine. Now, what is Anthony, can you talk a little bit maybe about how the Tennessee chapter got launched, when that happened? Tennessee, I think you mentioned that you kind of shepherd Tennessee and Georgia. Talk a little about the Tennessee chapter.
Yeah, well, if I could real quick, just kind of back to what Dayna was mentioning, and then I'll get into that real
sure.
Tennessee started. But something that we're really proud of is our ratios, and that over 90% of every dollar that we raise goes back to the mission. So we are pretty lean and mean as a team in getting everything done. And a huge credit to Dayna and her team, keeping track of all of these scholarships and working with the families on all their questions, and making sure that when these payments do go out, as she mentioned, it's up to $5,000, and those payments are spread across for college-age students across 2 semesters of school, and the money goes directly to the bursar's office and working with them, so that we have just a really good system in place, and how that works. And so that's something we're proud of. We're also a 4 out of 4 rated charity by GuideStar, and then platinum rated by Charity Navigator, which is both the highest rankings that you can have as a nonprofit. So we're really proud about those 2 things, and just wanted to make note of that really quick. As for how the Tennessee chapter started, it's actually a pretty touching story, and our chapters are very close. We do a lot of unique events, and our Minnesota chapter was doing a big summer house concert, and country artist Lee Bryce decided that he was going to go up and perform at this benefit concert in Minnesota. And before he got on stage, we had a guest speaker who was actually a recipient mother, and she got up on stage and told, her name is Ginger Revelle, and she got up on stage and said, "Lee, I just want you to know how much the words to 'I Drive Your Truck' mean to me. Before my husband, Major Troy Gilbert, went overseas, we sold our family's 3rd generation truck. We needed a little extra cash before he left, and we decided to sell his truck, and he never came home. And sometimes those tangible things are what I miss the most. And I just wish that I had that truck back, and what your words mean a lot to people, maybe that you don't know." And at that moment, Lee turned to his manager, to the Minnesota chapter president, and said, "We need to find this truck." And so sure enough, this is almost 10 years after Troy had passed, they had 5 kids that had all grown up. Ginger had remarried to another gentleman, Jim Ravella, who was also an Air Force pilot and lost his wife to cancer. But they were raising all their kids together. 10 years after, almost to the day, Ginger and the family get invited to go to the ACM Awards in Las Vegas in front of 20,000 people. Lee was going to be performing in what they thought would be a check presentation back to Folds of Honor. Between the time period that he played in Minnesota to the ACM Awards, Lee and Jim, her new husband, and the Minnesota chapter president were able to track down through some old paperwork, through a VIN number, and find this truck through some police officer friends, and they found the truck. Ginger had no clue what was going on the entire time. And sure enough, their eldest son that weekend of the ACM Awards just had turned 16 years old and getting his license. And at the ACMs in front of 20,000 people, Lee Bryce had the whole family up there and presented them the original keys back to this truck. And it was a huge moment for Lee. And, ever since then, Lee was like, I need to do something. I need to do more. I'm all in. And Lee, he decided, hey, I want to do something in my home state of Nashville, or in home state of Tennessee, and city of Nashville. And that's kind of when everything was born here in Nashville, that he was going to get country music artist buddies involved. We were going to do this right. We've got so much at our disposal here with Music City, event venues. You can see the growth of the state. So that's really how the Tennessee chapter was born. And we are pretty deeply tied into that music scene, and each chapter kind of develops its own identity, if you will. And that's kind of shaping up to be ours. And that's kind of how we do our events here. And then you got, like you said, Clarksville is just 45 minutes north with Fort Campbell. And, I've been down to MTSU. They've got a great Veterans Resource Center there. So just a lot of great stuff, and I'm happy to be a part of it. And it's really cool and unique that we do have, such a great ambassador in Lee Bryce, and John Rich is another one that lives in town.
Boy, that's listen, that's like made for a award-winning country music song. Are you kidding? That's like, yeah, written for that. That might be made for a Lifetime movie. That's really, really special. Very cool that he did that. That's a kind of thing where even if you're not a particular country music fan, that you might listen to that, and it's pretty touching. Yeah. Well, let me ask you one more question, Dayna, and I want to give a shout out to your Folds of Honor earrings too. Just very cool. How, if at all, has COVID changed, what's going on with some of the student recipients, or maybe even spouse scholarship recipients? I've got to think, like we're seeing, just education across the board has been so impacted. Families are so impacted. How are you seeing the changes? Are you seeing more applications, or do you anticipate even more applications as job stuff gets strained? Talk to me about that.
I do. We have continued since the time I started here, seeing on average, I would say a 15 to 16% increase in applications submitted every year. So you are absolutely correct. With COVID, it makes it even more of a challenge. We've had numerous families. Of course, we were in the middle of taking applications for the current academic year when everything kind of hit. But I just anticipate even more, of a need. And even prior to then, some students, once they were offered, we send out award notifications in July, typically mid to late July. And so a number of families responded when they received an award offer email, just saying how grateful, that they were, because someone in the family, a parent, had been, laid off. I know it's difficult right now for kids. I have 2 children in college, and just navigating all of that, being either in person or online, and how that all works. And typically for college age students, online coursework is more expensive than the tuition for in-person classes. So, I'm hopeful that in all instances, we are a blessing to these families. I did kind of want to mention that in Tennessee specifically, for 2020, 2021, we have 180 students that are current scholarship recipients, which
That's
is
awesome.
just under $900,000
Awesome.
in awards. I know. And historically, with the state of Tennessee, I think we started out in 2008 with 6 scholarship recipients in the state. And currently, now here we are with 180 overall. Since 2008, we've awarded right at 1,400 students. So, my team and I are just here to work diligently, and our scholarship can be combined with any and all other aid that students are eligible for. So we certainly encourage military families, look at what benefits you have. Do you have FRI benefits? Do you have Chapter 33, Chapter 35? If you don't, look at state benefits. And that's for families of the fallen as well as disabled veterans. And we will have a resource page on our website so that students can look at a couple of different search engines for, additional opportunities. We know $5,000 won't cover everything, but we want to come alongside as many other resources as they have available to, hopefully minimize any or ideally all debt that they might incur.
Well, I think about, you mentioned that it won't cover everything, but I think about a very realistic scenario right now where you may have a single parent, right? Because you have a lost mom or dad, a single parent now trying to navigate school at home and work. It's a lot. It's a whole lot, right? And so it may not be that a full private school tuition is necessary, but boy, some supplemental support really goes a long way. Whether that's tutoring in the home or remote. There's lots of online resources. Even just the simple technology. Now all kids are all running around with Chromebooks and Kindles, and you have to, because at any moment they may be learning at home again. So I think don't sell yourself short. That is an amount that goes a long way.
We sure hope so.
Yeah. Well, Anthony, anything else that you want to make sure that our viewers and listeners know about the program before we close out our time?
No, I think, we're growing. Like I said, we're proud of what we do. And it has been a troubling year and hard year for a lot of people. I'm thankful for the opportunity to be on here with you guys to continue to spread the message. If you ever have any questions, just go to our website. We've got the foldsofhonor.org website, which is our master website. And then if you want to get involved locally and volunteer and come out to any events, obviously it's been hard for us to have events this year. We actually just had to postpone one that we were hoping to have, but just with COVID spikes and things like that, we ultimately made the decision we have to be safe about this and let's wait until we can do it right. So there's definitely opportunities to get involved. We've got a great board. We've got a great young professionals board here. We cover more than just Nashville. I know when I was kind of telling the story about how we started that it was Nashville, but we actually are statewide. We've got board members out in Memphis and in Knoxville and, all in between as well. Just great patriots doing different fundraisers. And it could be as small as a car wash. It could be a lemonade stand. Every dollar matters. And we're just thankful for the opportunity to present to you guys, get our messaging out there. And then for anyone that would like to additionally help out, would be more than grateful.
Absolutely. We're so thankful to learn more about what Folds of Honor is doing, and just what you both are doing, and the organization is really tremendous. It's a huge service to families, and as you say, honoring the sacrifice, educating their legacy. That's what a mission. Super appropriate, obviously, with Veterans Day tomorrow, but that service continues year round. That legacy continues in perpetuity. And so thank you for doing what you do. We will be sure, because we are doing work, the American Federation for Children, at any given point, 15 to 20 to 25 states. And so we'll be sure to spread the word. And once that application period opens, we'd love to share that on our site also. So Dayna, we'll be sure to stay in touch. Thank you both for what you do for families, and we hope to be in touch soon.
Thank you,
Thank you
Shaka.
so much.
All right. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Take care.